Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Ball game, good as always. Thank you so much. I know I'm not supposed to call you that anymore now that we're adults, but that's his name, and that's the way it's going to be. First and foremost, I do want to thank my lovely wife, Stacy, who has our three wonderful girls here today. They have been troopers on the campaign trail. And we all know it doesn't work. It doesn't work without her at home, taking care of things while I run around trying to get elected, right? And try and convince Nebraskans I'm the right man for the job. General Lemke, honored to have you lead my Veterans Coalition. Honored to be here with you and have your support. Yeah. To my friends and family, I thank you. I thank you all for all you've done to help me on this journey. 42 days to go, and we're not letting up. And also to the veterans. A lot of these guys have been riding in a lot of parades for me. Thank you for your service. Rolling Thunder, Dale, thank you. It's an honor. These are the endorsements that mean something to me, right? Having groups like this that come out, everyday Americans that have defended our country and fought for our freedoms, that's what it's all about. Standing back up, right? Answering the call. So while we have certainly covered a lot of ground today and see a lot of familiar faces and covered a lot of ground in the last almost year now, 42,000 miles, there are other few key people that have helped me outside of my family. I've got my dear friend Paul Critchlow here, who's a Benson Bunny originally, who's a Vietnam veteran. Paul, thank you for your service. He's a dear friend and an advisor, whether I want the advice or not. And I always want the advice. I'm just kidding. But I've got Lee Sr. here, Lee Terry Sr., who's also been a good advisor and also a fellow veteran. Thank you. Doug Whitaker, who serves on the Nebraska Soldiers Foundation with me, who's been the MC today. Thank you, Doug. You know, I certainly am proud of my service. That's obvious. But what I want to talk about today is what that leadership training in the U.S. Navy has done for me. I had a lot of opportunities growing up. My sister Lynette here and I grew up with a single mom, worked 3 jobs, and became director of nursing at the Veterans Home. It was those stories of the sacrifices that those veterans made in service to our country, hearing them as a young man, that made me want to grow up and serve. I wanted to do 2 things in life: fly airplanes and serve. And that's what I was able to do. Going to school at University of Nebraska on ROTC scholarship. Wouldn't have been able to afford college without it. Very proud. Serving for 9 years. I think we've covered that pretty well here today. But I tell you what, it's you make decisions, you fly, you serve your country, but I didn't do anything any other mission commander and pilot wouldn't have done. I am honored to have served amongst heroes, to meet the best people I've ever met in my life. Those 9 years in the Navy, they made me who I am today. And then for a lot of the people here and the people across Nebraska to trust in me when I got out in 05 and said, you know what, the uniform's in the closet, I'd still like to serve. Drove all over this big, beautiful state and became your state treasurer. And you know what? You trusted me, and I kept my promises. You see, a lot of people tell you they're fiscal conservatives, but I believe talk is cheap. And I think actions definitely speak louder than words. Over a 4-year term as your state treasurer, I cut my budget nearly 12%. That's not slowing growth the way politicians like to talk about cutting things. I cut that budget nearly 20%. I reduced the staff by over a quarter. How did I do that? Quite simply, I surrounded myself with good people. One of them's here today, my former Chief of Staff, Trent Fellers, a Marine. We got the job done. You surround yourself with good people, you give them the mission, you let them accomplish it. But we didn't just cut the office. We actually increased the output. We increased the efficiency of the office so much, we were awarded the Treasury Marquis Award, the top treasurer's office in the country, public or private. You know, there's a few people here who got some unclaimed property checks from me, right? We showed the people in Nebraska the government can be leaner, can work for you, and can give you results. Over $50 million given back in the one term. One term. Now, let's put that in perspective real quick. 4 years, one term, $50 million. That's more than the previous 20 years combined and the previous 4 treasurers combined. Now, those of you here that know me know I am a ardent believer in transparency, which is kind of funny coming from a guy who, flew secret reconnaissance missions, right? But I believe that if you shine the light on government and you follow the money, you will find the root of the evil. And that's something we must do in Washington, D.C. So when I promised you transparency, I brought it. I accomplished it. With about $40,000 and a lot of college interns from the University of Nebraska, we created nebraskaspending.gov. It shows you the historical spending in the state. Where's your money being spent? Where's it going? If the government's going to take our money, they at least can give us a receipt for it, right? That's what we have in Nebraska. We have the ability to see who are the vendors doing business with the state. Can you imagine how well it would work out in Washington, D.C.? Transparency is the single best way to hold our elected officials accountable. And that's what I want us to do with the people in Washington, and that's what I want Nebraskans to do with me. Hold me accountable. Follow me, what I'm doing, what I've done, and where I'm going. Politics is a little different than the financial services world which I'm in. Past performance is indicative of future performance, right? So, while we'd accomplished a lot as a treasurer, I'd accomplished everything I needed to do. At the time, I was a single father. I had sole custody of 3 kids. My youngest, Addison, was in diapers still, and I'm driving back and forth, and family always comes first, and it always will for me. So I took a step back from public life. I announced it early. But even after I announced I wouldn't run for re-election, there was something called Obamacare that was being talked about. It wasn't passed yet, but we had a senator here that was going to be the 60th vote. So with the help of some people in this room, I spoke and led the rallies around the state fighting Obamacare. When you talk about what's going on with this country, you have to look at what people have done. When you talk about things like Dodd-Frank, a financial services bill that's killing our economy, that's tearing us apart, that's wiping out small-town banks and the ability of small businessmen and women to get access to capital, I fought it as state treasurer. When you talk about these things, you have to look, because people standing on the stump are going to tell you everything you want to hear, but what have they actually done? And that's something that I hope people will take the time in Nebraska, and I know Nebraskans will get informed and look at the history. And when they see that there is somebody here that has done more than spoken on these issues, he's actually rooted in action. So I finished my term. I stepped back. Stacy and I have been married. It'll be 3 years in July. Life's good. We've got Alyssa as well. So the girls are 7, almost 8, 9, and Avery's 16. It's kind of like the Brady Bunch, but it works. And so soon after we were married, I looked my wife in the eye and said, I've got some ideas for some businesses I want to start. I was a shareholder in Silverstone Group, a great firm with the Nelsons that I started with when I got out of the Navy. And I literally walked away from a great job to start my own business. Actually, I started a few. My focus has and always will be on taking care of veterans. And I started a financial services firm that hires post 9/11 vets. We focused on hiring any kind of veteran and not just giving them a job, but giving them a career. It's owned by veterans. It's a labor of love. It's a very tough industry right now. But I also have another business that I formed with former Attorney General John Ashcroft that helps unclaimed property compliance and businesses comply. And I've got a business that Stacy runs that does aviation insurance consulting. The reason I talk about that is because I know what it's like to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back of one. That's something we need in Washington, D.C. So as we run around this big, beautiful state and put on the 42,000 miles and get all the grassroots support and work hard, because this is still a state where the grassroots matter and shaking hands still matters. It's not just about fancy television ads. It's about getting out there and knowing people. So I have 3 issues. I run a very concise, disciplined campaign, and there's a lot going on in this country that we need to fix, but there are 3 issues that I focus on. 1, our national debt. $17 trillion. $60 trillion plus in unfunded mandates. In Nebraska, we understand here, we don't spend money we don't have, right? We have a balanced budget here in Nebraska. It works really well for us. It's worked really well over the past 6 years for us, along with some good leadership from Governor Heineman. Can you imagine a country where we force the Congress to live within their means, to have a balanced budget amendment that says you're getting $200 billion a month in revenue. You figure a way out and make the choices necessary to live within your means, just like Nebraskans do at their kitchen table every single day. right? We have to have it. We have to get the spending under control. People say, Shane, why do you want to go out there and be a part of this mess? Why do you want to go out to Washington, D.C.? It's a saying that goes back that we have in the Navy. Each service has a similar saying, but this one's from the Navy. And many men and women have, quite frankly, given their lives for this saying. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I refuse to sit back and watch our country decline. Is it too much to ask that we put people in Washington, D.C. with the same honor, courage, and commitment that we do our men and women that are serving us in uniform today? Is that too much to ask? Can we not get some people out there that'll put the country first, put their differences aside and get it done? That's what's great about our state. Nebraskans want results. They don't just want rhetoric, they want results, and I aim to deliver. The second issue that I have that's really hurting our economy is the regulators, the EPA, the OSHA, the overreach. I don't care if I'm out in Scotts Bluff or if I'm here in Omaha, up in the hometown of Norfolk. I hear the same thing across the sectors. It's amazing. Whether you're ag, manufacturing, financial services, it's the same concern. Shane, the rules keep changing. We can't keep up with the regulatory environment. How do they ever expect us to comply with all these rules and regulations? And it changes from district to district and day to day. What can we do? Can you please just tell us what the rules are so we can build our businesses and do what we do in creating jobs? As a small businessman, I know exactly what the regulators are doing to us. We have to rein them in. How do we do that? We get the Senate back. That's how we do it, right? We hold the House, we get the Senate, we stop the bleeding for the next couple years. What's something we could actually get done with President Obama, who I obviously disagree on 99.9% of the things with? There's something that we actually could get done that would help this economy. A simpler, fairer, flatter tax code. That's how we get it done. That's 70% approval rating across party lines. You want something you can get done in the next 2 years? That's something we can get done. Now, Republicans are really good about talking about what's wrong. Let's talk about how we fix it. How do we get more people back to work? We're fortunate here in Nebraska. We've got, low unemployment numbers, but I would argue we have a lot of underemployment and the need for more skilled labor and the need for more technical training. How do we create this so we have less than 40% of Americans needing some sort of aid? We want to work that down, right? How do we create the opportunities so a kid like me drinking powdered milk can grow up and have his own business and be a legitimate United States Senate candidate? We do that. One of the lowest hanging fruits that we could ever imagine is sitting right here to the northwest of us. It's called North American Energy Independence. Millions of jobs created. The jobs in the energy sector average $70,000. Could you imagine how many people we could get working again? The infrastructure built. We've got liquefied natural gas reserves the size of Saudi Arabia's to the northwest of us. We've got fracking. We've got ethanol. We've got all these diversified energies. We can create the jobs. And oh, by the way, it's not just for economic reasons. I've been over the Middle East, and I'm here to tell you, not many of those countries particularly care for us, right? Why wouldn't we do it? Do we want to build pipelines, or do we want to keep sending 18, 19-year-olds to die in the Middle East? It's a clear choice for me, folks, and I'll tell you where I'll stand. North American energy independence. Finally, my third issue. We're not keeping our promise to veterans. 3, 4, 5 deployments. The Vietnam veterans would think that we would have learned from our lessons of the past, right? We're bringing our men and women home with not just visible but invisible scars. Johnny and I lost a crewmate, took his own life. 22 veterans a day taking their own lives. Their families are torn up. There's a long trail to war. It's time we do something to take care of that. Doug and I, that's why we formed the Nebraska Soldiers Foundation. We'd help working with At Ease and Lutheran Family Services to help fund some of the PTSD clinics. We were proud to open up one in North Platte on Veterans Day. It's something we have to do. And the other thing goes back to something I said in 2009 when I led those Obamacare rallies, anti-Obamacare rallies around the state. Obamacare is going to fail, and we're seeing it. It's failing. We've got a president making up numbers today on the television right before we started this rally here today, talking about how good it's doing and how great it is when it crashed last night, just like it crashed when it started, and it's going to crash and fail, right? It's what's going to happen. We know the end of this book. We know the end is single-payer government-run health care, socialized medicine. And you keep hearing these pundits on the talk shows talking about making comparisons to Europe, making comparisons to Canada that have socialized medicine. Oh, by the way, Europe's not really good, and they make us look good when it comes to financial health. But you look at these countries and that have socialized medicine, you don't have to go that far away. Let's jump on the bikes, guys, and let's go down to the local VA. The largest healthcare system in our country, and it's completely government run. And veterans are dying every single day because they can't get access to health care. So what's the federal government do? It's their answer to everything. Throw more money at it, right? It's not a funding problem. It's a bureaucrat problem. It's a bureaucratic organization that churns money and doesn't get the job done. New returning veterans, 12 to 24 months it's taken for our men and women just to get processed through. That's before they're even seeing a doctor to get help. We're seeing the results right now of what government-run healthcare looks like. And if we treat veterans this way, how are we going to treat the average citizens when the government's running all of healthcare? We have to repeal Obamacare. And quite frankly, we can't go back to the way it was. We need a free market solution. This solution's been talked about for years by Republicans, but we haven't done a good job of selling it. One, we need equal tax treatment. I don't care if you're an individual, I don't care if you're a small businessman or a large corporation, it should be equal, an equal playing field. We need to quit picking winners and losers. High deductible plans with HSAs, that is a key. Portability, not just from job to job, and we should be able to take our healthcare plan with us from job to job, but across state lines. That's a key provision that we must have. What does that do for us? It brings in the free market solutions. It makes the decisions between us and our healthcare provider, our doctors, and then keeps the government out of the way. Finally, what about those 1% of Americans that are uninsurable? They have pre-existing conditions. Block grants to the state. High-risk pools. It's been done, and it works. Is it expensive? Absolutely. But I'm telling you right now, it's a whole lot less expensive than what we're doing, right? Sending people to the ER, putting them through a healthcare system that doesn't take care of them, has no continuity to it, right? At the end of the day, this race is going to be very simple. There are clear differences. Do you want someone with proven performance or somebody that gives really good speeches? Do you want somebody that's going to look you in the eye and you're voting for somebody that you know is just an everyday Nebraskan who's focused on Nebraskans? Or do you want somebody who's focused out on Washington, D.C.? We can keep doing the same old things, keep sending bureaucrats back to Washington, churning them out, then they become lobbyists, and we keep wondering why we get the same results. Or you can send somebody that you know you may not agree with on every single issue, but that will look you in the eye, take your meeting, sit down and talk to you, and we'll figure something out. We'll figure out how to get it done, right? I need your help. I don't have the most money in this campaign. I won't spend the most money in this campaign, but I certainly won't be outworked. We just had a really good quarter, and I'm proud of that. We worked hard to do it, but at the same time, it's 42 days, and we're going to grind this win out. I may be an air power guy, but I know at the end of the day, it's the ground war that gets it done, and that's what we're doing across the state with the veterans that are here today, with all the grassroots support. My support goes from the far right Tea Party all the way over to the moderates, and that's because they know at the end of the day, I'm an honest guy who's going to look you in the eye. You help me get there. I need your help. I need your support. You help me get there, and I'll serve you the same way I did as a United States Naval officer. I'll serve you the same way I did as a state treasurer, and the same way I am right now as a family man and a businessman, with the utmost honor, courage, and commitment. Thank you all for being here, and God bless.